All right, guys, so I have some news to share, okay? It's not very important, but it's related to the main topic of this video that we're going to get into. But it is that our favorite progressive politician, and I'm being sarcastic here, Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, aka Miss Sandy Cortez, is engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Mr. Riley Roberts, okay? And I know that this is probably disappointment to some of us who AOC claims, right, we want to have sex with her because we criticize her, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of us are disappointed. Again, I'm being sarcastic, okay? If anything, I feel bad for this guy, right? I feel bad for him. I feel bad for his family, okay? Because I'm pretty sure AOC is going to be a lot to deal with, right? She is definitely a modern woman who is probably running this relationship, okay? This guy definitely is probably a simp, okay? But hey, at the end of the day, that is what he wants. And love is love. So what can I say? Again, I'm praying for his family, right, during this time. But with that being said, the reason why I brought this up is because I find it fascinating how these people who are so loud about so-called white supremacy in this country are the main people that go to bed every single night and sleep with white men. Again, which I have no problem with fundamentally. I don't care who you date. I really don't. I don't care. But again, I just find it interesting how, again, these same people who are always complaining about white males, specifically straight white males, right, and white supremacy, they seem to love being with white men, right? The people that they claim are the biggest domestic terror threat to this country, okay? Which is what AOC came out here and went on Instagram Live and claimed just a week after getting engaged to a white man. Take a look.
White supremacy is a fact. It's not just a fact. You look at FBI statistics, which underreport hate crimes, police statistics, which also even all the institutions that underreport hate crimes still has white supremacist groups as by far the leading driver of domestic terrorism in the United States. And that's with all the generosity that they get from underreporting. It's not even close. It's like the bar of white supremacist violence is like this, and then it's like all the other categories are like that. And so it's not inciting anything to talk about that. There's no what ifs here. There's no like, what about Antifa here? Like, look at the numbers and all of us accept responsibility for the reality. It's a reality for a reason, because we keep ignoring the issue and beating around the bush. And that's why it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us, because the way that a lot of people get de-radicalized is the most effective way is by someone that they personally know. Someone in their job.
Yeah, so I find what she's saying there to be fascinating, right? Because she's repeating a line that has been repeated by the Democrat Party and the Biden administration over and over and over again about how all the facts and evidence point to white supremacy being the biggest domestic terror threat in this country, right? All the facts and statistics. However, none of them can cite any facts or statistics to back up this claim. They can't. None of them can. Okay, it's kind of similar to what the Democrats do when it comes to so-called voter suppression, right? They'll claim your vote is being suppressed. However, they can never cite one fact or statistic that tells us how many people's votes are being suppressed because of GOP election integrity laws, right? They don't have any, right? Again, and this is why I find it to be funny, because even the Biden administration directed the FBI to come out here and to give the statistics to reveal the threat of white supremacy in this country, and they still haven't produced anything, right? Now, there's been some studies, right, that I've read about it. However, I got questions, right, in terms of what do you call or classify as domestic terrorism or hate crime, right? How do you define these things, okay? Because it seems to me when it comes to certain crimes done by certain people, people like Daryl Brooks, the guy that massacred innocent people during a Christmas parade, right? Or, some of the gang shootings that happened in Chicago and across all these liberal cities across the country, right? Which result in a whole lot more people dying, right, than so-called white supremacists, which, again, I'm not saying it's not a threat. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, let's talk about the priorities here. But, again, we don't have any statistics from the FBI, right, or the Department of Homeland Security that supports any of these claims that they keep coming out here and saying about the threat of white supremacy. Again, not saying that it's not a thing. Obviously, it is. Look at what happened in Buffalo, and I've called it out when I see it. I'm not afraid to say, no. This is white supremacist violence, okay? I call it down the middle, okay? But when you keep talking about how it's the biggest domestic terror threat to this country, I want to see the facts. I want to see the evidence, because up until now, they have not been able to provide any. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I did a video about this. Congressman Greg Stubb basically confronted Alejandro Mayorkas, the director of the Department of Homeland Security, on this very claim that white supremacy is the biggest domestic terror threat to this country, and to produce evidence, right, and facts to support that claim, and he just couldn't. Take a look.
How many cases involving white supremacists and domestic terrorists have you referred to DOJ for prosecution?
Congressman, let me
simple. Do you not have the number? It's a simple number.
You've made some profoundly inaccurate statements that I would like the opportunity to correct.
I'm specifically asking you a question. You just clarified. Domestic terrorism is a threat to the homeland, number one threat. And I'm asking you, how many referrals from Homeland Security have you made to DOJ for white supremacy or domestic terrorism?
Congressman, I will provide you with that information.
So you don't know?
Subsequent to this hearing. I do not have.
Can you name one case?
That statistic.
Can you name one case of a referral from DHS to DOJ for domestic terrorism?
Congressman, I will provide the data to you.
I'm asking you can't name one case.
And let me just say.
Okay, so you can't name one case yet. According to a new report from the U.S. Department of Justice, almost half of all the criminals prosecuted in federal courts in 2018 were aliens, charged with crimes ranging from drug trafficking to murder and to kidnapping, and the vast majority, 38,000, were illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. But it's still, domestic terrorism is the number one cause of your concerns.
Yeah, so that guy has no clue, right? He has no clue whatsoever. Despite making these claims, he can't even name one fact or even a case that the Department of Homeland Security is dealing with or dealt with in regards to white supremacy. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying they can't name any, but they say it's the biggest threat. They should better name one right off the top of their head, right? Since it's such a big threat to this country. Okay? And what I find to be fascinating in regards to what AOC is saying here, she says, well, you can't do whataboutism, right? You can't say, well, what about Antifa, right? This is not about Antifa, blah, 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 blah. We know for a fact that white supremacy is the biggest domestic terror threat. And again, my question is, how do you know that when the FBI has even admitted that they don't even keep up with statistics that have to do with violence that comes from groups like Antifa? Take a look.
Morning, when Congressman Donalds was speaking, you mentioned in the FBI and domestic terrorism, there are these subcategories of domestic terrorism: racial, anti-government, animal, environmental, abortion, and catch-all. I think those are what I heard. Under the anti-government category or subcategory of domestic terrorism, would that include groups like Antifa or Black Lives Matter, folks who commit violence or acts of domestic terrorism?
Well, we don't identify groups, but individuals' actions. So if individuals are committing actions that would be in furtherance of anti-government or anarchist ideals, then they would fall into that category.
So would you quantify Antifa as an anarchist group then under that subcategory? I mean, it's an anarchist group, right? Or related?
There are individuals, I think the director has previously described them as a movement, and there have been individuals that have associated or identified with Antifa that have conducted violent acts that we would categorize as anarchist.
How many acts of violence or domestic terrorism has Antifa committed over the last 2 years?
Since we don't categorize Antifa, nor do we calculate or collate information regarding Antifa, that movement, we don't have that, but we could provide you information on anarchist threats and cases in general.
Yeah, guys, so what you just saw there was the FBI admitting that, hey, when it comes to Antifa, we're not really worried about them like that, okay? We don't really keep up with statistics in regards to the violent acts that they do, right? Even though it is very clear and obvious that they commit violent acts, particularly in, states like Oregon, okay, and on the left coast, they're very active. But for whatever reason, the FBI not really worried about them that much, okay? So much so that they don't even keep up with the statistics on it. So again, my question is to all these people who keep making this claim, right, that white supremacy is the biggest domestic terror threat to this country. How do you know? Right? Because if we don't know how many violent acts Antifa's committing, right, and I think they're clearly a domestic terror threat, then how can we compare? Right? How can we compare? Because again, these leftists, the reason why they can't give statistics, I know why they can't give statistics, is because what they say is that, well, these white supremacist acts are happening all over the country. But the reason why we don't have statistics is because the DOJ refers these cases to local and state law enforcement. And local and state law enforcement, they don't really classify things as hate crimes, right? They're the ones that's not really keeping up with the statistics. So that's why we don't have them, right? So I'm like, okay, again, if you don't have the statistics, how can you make that claim, right? How can you make the claim? But, they make the claims anyways because it's the popular thing to say. That's just what it comes down to, right? And it's just funny to me, again, how these people who are so gun-ho against straight white males, right? They always use this virtue signaling against straight white males to make political points and for political gain. That's who they go home with at the end of the night and they sleep with. Again, I don't care who you sleep with, to be quite honest with you. But I'm just saying, I just find it fascinating how, again, people like Don Lemon, people like AOC, all the people that love talking about white supremacy, they go home every single night and let a white man have supremacy over them, right? Again, I find that to be absolutely fascinating stuff, okay? I really do. But hey, like I said, man, congratulations to AOC and her getting engaged. But I feel really bad for her fiance and particularly his family having to deal with somebody like AOC. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.